and he plays on a team.
So it's structured sports.
Yeah, and he's going to a special school, autistic school.
Nice.
And they're real good. And he's got all A's and D's. He's, he's a smart little kid, but his autism just is crazy. It's
Right.
and if they don't, they have to have a pattern in their life. You can't, I make a ham and cheese sandwich. It's got to have 3 pieces of ham and 3 pieces of cheese. If it doesn't have that, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, you know, I had a good meeting.
What's that?
You know, I had a good meeting.
Yeah, I told my neighbors around the area there, Tony across the street, John next to me, and Angie, they all know what went on.
Right.
They cracked.
Yeah.
They took him away for about a week. Yeah, down at a special hospital. And, you don't want to go back there, so he knows he has to do that again.
Right. Good to see you.
But you learn all these lessons.
We do. You learn something every day.
Yeah, so I've been spending a lot more time with my family. Doing that. Take What's that?
About voting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I might, I'm not sure. I just got a membership in the sports club. Finally.
Where are they right now?
They voted.
Oh, yeah, I was a member for about 15 years.
Yeah, I put my name on the list back in 2012, probably with a different email. And I stopped using it, so I called them, I said, I thought I did it. So I was back on the list, and then, hey, no, you did it.
Yeah.
So I finally got the membership.
It's nice. It's real good.
Yeah, I said I wouldn't get, a photo, so I get a membership, because I'm not going to,
It's really good. They, yeah, they have a lot of events down there. They have, barbecues and stuff like that. They used to take the kids there. They let the kids swim off the dock.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, yeah. Kids really used to love them. And then we used to go out to the island. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, it was a fun time.
One day, back again.
Yeah. They enjoy it.
Yeah.
Grab my seat.
Hey, what's up, man? Nice to meet you. In a meeting.
I just tried this key doesn't work on me.
Why do you sneak in here?
Doesn't work. Never did work.
Why do you sneak in
Yeah.
here?
That's the only key that I have. I don't know. Some they had keys for the over here and stuff, or I never got them. That's the only one that I got.
I was about to say that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Greg, so the one that made that. Keys for me. Congratulations, Tom.
Hey, Gilbert, what's up? You know, I'm sure you enjoy the How you doing?
We're still going through the growing pains and so forth. We will be having our next meeting. You can rest assured they'll be here. No, but really, you know, I don't want to be the only one with one, so I want to make sure everybody has one. I'm glad you remembered that though.
We just went. Yeah, probably the cool kids club.
Good evening, everyone. 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Western Bay Board of Directors meeting for May 21st, 2025. Unfortunately, we don't have Natalie here, so we will verify the quorum. I'm Warren Lewis, I'm present. Tom Ogle.
My name is Tom Ogle. I live at 656 Austria Way. Born here in Orlando, lived here in West Bay since 2009. And thank you for putting your trust in me to be on the board.
Brian Smith is absent. Alex Archer.
Hi, I'm Alex Archer, Secretary, member of Western Bay since 2009, live at 687 Poster Way, right around the corner. But yeah, first time board member, happy to be here. I was actually part of the ARC in the RAC, Resident Advisory Committee, in 2011 to 13. That was prior to when the developer actually was on the HOA and maintained that before they turned over to the residents. But thank you all for coming tonight.
Carl Clark.
Carl, previous president and also a resident of Western Bay for the last 20 years, from 2005. Watched this community develop and grow. And I'm happy to hear helping these fellows to move forward with their endeavor.
We have sufficient members, so we have a quorum. Proof of notice for the meeting was posted on the bulletin board, on the electronic board, and Dwelling Live. We have some handouts up there that there's a letter that I'll read, and we're going to have it sent by it'll be on Dwelling Live. Basically says, good evening, Western Bay. The new Western Bay HOA board would like to say thank you for your support for this year's election. We are for now working behind the scenes to come up with a framework in which we can best operate and serve you. We're looking at and discussing some of the critical needs to include but are not limited to security, street tree issues, sidewalk repairs, state of our finances, obtaining legal opinions on questionable legal issues, and running the day-to-day operations of the community. Some of the changes we will implement include having a live board meetings here at Clubhouse. We will attempt to also host the meetings on the live feed, Zoom, as well as tape sessions for those that are unable to attend. We're going to be soliciting volunteers from the community. We have a form back there that if you're interested in volunteering, certainly put your name down. We'll be sending out an e-blast within the next week or 10 days. But we're looking for volunteers for all of the committees that we have, and maybe establishing others, the Architectural Review Committee, Landscape and Infrastructure, Communications, Community Outreach and Welcome Committee, Finance Committee, and some of the new things that we're thinking on is like fundraising committees. We'll be posting the officers on Dwellings Live. I know that we've had problems in the past with Dwellings Live, but like I said, we're working through some of those problems, and to start a frequently asked page also on Dwellings Live. Some of the things that people have approached us and talked about that we will try to somehow see if we can implement would be the creation of village teams or key points of contacts in the different villages to coordinate village activities and be our eyes and ears in those respective areas. We're thinking of a food truck rally at the clubhouse, game night at the clubhouse, village competition like kickball, softball, basketball, beautification committee, and we're thinking of something where you have a yard of the month, a house in Western Bay, and a house in the Eagles Landing, and we post up a sign and we somehow have the houses compete. Again, some of these things we have not fleshed out yet, but those are some of the ideas. We're certainly going to be looking to the community for assistance, to volunteer. and we're certainly hoping that, y'all will be interested in helping us move the community forward and, being a closer community. Went back to the agenda, we've all introduced ourselves, we've all met the board. We wanted, our first issue is to address and approve an insurance policy. I believe everyone has reviewed it. Any questions on the board? This is the insurance policy that covers the board members and the facility. It's due for renewal, goes into effect in June 1st, so I would entertain a motion since there are no questions.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the insurance approval.
Motion on the floor to approve the insurance, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor to approve the insurance and seconded by Alex, vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Just so you're aware, I did look at the budget. The insurance renewal, even though it increased 6%, it still fell within the budget allocated for 2025. It's about $3,000 or $4,000 lower than what was allocated.
All right, so the motion I'm sorry.
Are you taking questions on the whole agenda or just the insurance?
Well, we will do it by session, and at the end, we'll give everybody an opportunity to speak for on
Then
anything that was
I'll
not
wait
on
till the end.
not anything that was not on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
You said you're gonna take questions after you vote on items, or?
Well,
That's too late.
yeah, well, we certainly entertain questions before, if there's a particular matter, but we will give everybody an opportunity to address issues that are not on the agenda. So let me say this, is there any question about the insurance?
No, I'm good with the insurance.
I have, does the insurance also cover the pool?
Yes, it does.
It covers all the infrastructure, including physical structures, liability, director's insurance, etc.
Okay, so the vote was 4 in favor, so the vote is unanimous. The second issue is the, new pool vendor. First, let me apologize that we had to close the pool. The pool company that we have not been too pleased with their service. And, so we are terminating them and starting a new contract. It was brought to our attention today that the pool people had not shown up for 3 days, something that we didn't know. Consequently, pool turned green. We were able to get in touch with the, I guess, the president of the company, and he came out and he's working with us to get it back. We expect that it'll be open definitely for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. So we do apologize that
There's
you
a bunch
came
of
down.
parties.
I'm sorry?
There's a bunch of parties this weekend, hoping, to use the pool myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we believe from the conversations that we've had with the company that we're terminating, that it'll be operational probably by sometime late tomorrow. They've treated the pool, but we want to make sure that it's the right balance and so forth, so that nobody will get sick. But it should be definitely open by the weekend. So everyone's had an opportunity to look at the companies that we're looking at. Is there any questions or need to be addressed?
The other thing I would like for them to address, because in the summertime, we have more traffic in the swimming pool. And instead of not servicing the pool on the weekend, I would rather just see them take 2 days during the week when it's not heavy traffic and work on the weekend to keep it clean. So that would be one thing I would like.
I recall the note where you were asking for them to change the dates. I'm sure that's something that we could,
Consider the weekend.
yeah, to accommodate the weekend.
Right, and if they would take like, say, Tuesday,
concern with the pool, because I was down here with my grandkids, and a bunch of children they were having fun, I get it, but it was very dangerous. They were stacking chairs up and running and flipping over it into the pool. And I'm afraid somebody's gonna crack their head open or miss the dang pool, and the pool's not deep enough for people to do that. I didn't say anything to them because I'm not their mom, but it's a liability for all of us, because if somebody gets hurt, we're all gonna pay for it.
How old were they?
They were teenagers.
They knew better.
They knew better.
No
But-
parent with them?
No parent.
All you can really do is call.
I called the front gate and they said they're not responsible.
All you can really do is call the police. We don't have a security enforcement at the pool. The management company is not open on the weekends.
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Prior to like calling the police, put up signs. Put up signs saying no diving in the pool, stuff like that. You know, put up the warnings for this and stuff like that, and then put out a blast to the community, to the parents, and talk to them about it. We don't need to bother the police and everything. It's not that serious. We were all kids doing this stuff. As a community, we can talk amongst ourselves, hey, we police ourselves. We don't need to bring law enforcement.
There's one suggestion that we can do. If you see something like that, call Warren and get the time when you see them there. And we will see what's going on there, and we can now send a letter, Nappy send a letter to that homeowner, because we can know who came in and at what time and track them and know exactly what's going on.
The only issue is that I noticed that we had to change the way that you exit out of the pool for the fire code, and it had to become a button instead of your like key card to get out of the pool. But I noticed a lot of people are pushing that button on their way out and letting everybody in. So there's a lot of kids that are coming that maybe don't even live in the neighborhood. They're coming from after school or things along those lines, and that's the biggest thing that I've seen coming out of the pool.
I don't care that they use the pool.
Yeah,
I just don't want the flipping.
yeah.
I'm afraid somebody's gonna get hurt.
That is true.
I like the idea of the signs, maybe that's something that we could look at, and as, Tom said, the management companies, you know, weekends. A lot of the things we have inherited, so we're trying to put some additional fixes into it. So,
I understand,
you know,
I
like-
understand people are not available, and I understand they're kids. We all did stupid things as kids, but
There was no Facebook.
Well, funny you say that. This actually happened in 2011, and they posted on Facebook. The same exact thing, stacking chairs, jumping over them. And I forget at the time who was part. I think I sent it to Sutherland Management, which is
Oh,
HOA.
okay.
At the time, just. so
they
can
were
remember.
up to 10 chairs. They were up to 10 chairs, and I just grabbed my kids and I was like, let's go, let's go. People
Probably
are,
not good for the chairs either.
So.
In the past, we've had the security guard here during the summer. It costs money, but that could help with situations like that.
Well, as you know, we are also looking at the finances that we have. We have to cut back security significantly, but, we'll be talking to them and see what can be done. I think first we have to get a handle on the funds that are there, whether there's anything left, and you know, it was a very, tight budget.
Tight budget.
So,
I mean, unless the security guard's gonna be here all the time, it's not gonna help. I mean, it's just a deterrent, but it's not gonna stop anything, I don't think, unless they're posted here.
I think the idea that, Carl said, as far as if we can narrow down the time, identify the kids so that we have some cameras around the place and send notices to the parents. Maybe we can work internally to see if we can come up with a mechanism to help prevent it from a safety standpoint.
Yeah, we have done that and it worked. So
I'm
just
all for them having a
report
good time,
the
I don't
time
mind
you,
them having a good time, I just don't want somebody to get hurt.
just report the time you see those activities to us, you know, and, we can take it from there.
Okay. What age do they need to have an adult and a parent with them?
I think it's 18 years old or something like that, the sign over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought as long as they were 15 and older, they were
There's
fine.
two, I think there's two different signs. One says 16 and one says 18. I think
Yes.
There are different signs that say that.
Are different ages.
Okay.
We've been there like since 2011 to 16, pretty much.
They look into it and see what we can come up with. Yeah.
So you all have said call the police, and the gentleman back there said don't call the police, so what is it?
I said that we like the idea of the signs, you know, that we're trying to
But
see.
if they still do it, what's the resolution?
I'm sorry?
But if they still do it, what's our resolution?
One of the other areas that Don Carl said, as far as if we can identify the kids, and communicating with the family, and seeing if we can stop the behavior. So at this point, I don't have a firm answer. We're looking at ideas, like I said in the beginning, to address issues that are coming up, issues that were going on in the past. You know, like the gentleman said, as far as not calling the police, you know, certainly we would try to handle it. We were all kids, you know, certainly we try and handle it as a family.
But certainly social media next door is not, posting their video on next door is not the answer.
I'm sorry?
Certainly posting their video on next door is not the answer.
No, are they doing that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, and I'm not videoing anybody's
No,
children.
no, I'm not saying anything.
Okay, but
I'm saying
I
that's-
would never video somebody's children and post it.
That's the
No,
society
what
today.
Carl
That's
said
how
was
it
to let us know the time, and we could
You're
go back
right,
and check the time.
it is the society today, but I wouldn't do that.
But if they're stacking up chairs and causing damage and vandalism, I feel that warrants calling the police. If they're just being loud and obnoxious, you know, that's a different story.
Well, it's not really, they are stacking chairs, and they're not vandalizing the chairs.
But they could break.
They could break, but they were just stacking the chairs. My most concern was someone missing the pool and getting hurt or paralyzed, because I've had a friend that jumped off somewhere and has been paralyzed. And so, I mean, as kids, we all do stupid stuff, and I would go over and say something, but I was like, there was a whole bunch of them, and I didn't want to get in an argument. It was not worth it. I just grabbed the kids and left. But I do want someone to know, because I don't want somebody to get hurt, and it'd be life-changing for them.
Well, I think if we certainly try as far as identifying to us the time, that we could try and trace it back that way, because we would have access as far as the people coming in.
Yeah,
and
I
dates
think
and
that's
so
a good
forth.
thing. I
So I
don't
think
want
that's-
to call the cops, because I don't want them to have a record. You know, they're being kids. So I'd rather call their parents and say, hey, look, can you talk to them and realize how dangerous it is?
And we're looking at it from a safety perspective. or
Yeah,
something.
it's a safety.
And that's just community classes, but I'm not like, she brought up a good concern. Everybody here agrees that's a concern. Now you see nothing, community, hey, this is going on the pool. You know, to protect ourselves and stuff like that, and let the kids know, should be stacking the chairs, it's dangerous for everybody. You know, when damage, community property, because they're just gonna make breaks go and stuff like that. You know, it's been out there, what we're having right here, right now, but people are involved.
Certainly, community glass would be an eye opener, certainly bringing attention, especially with it being the summer. A lot of people will be using the pools, so that's something that we could certainly do this week, just, you know, from a safety, again, from a safety perspective, we don't want, you know, your kids hurt, and so that's something that we can definitely do. The two things I would suggest that we're going to do immediately would be to reporting it to us so we can track and, you know, send them out.
Sounds good. I'll do that in the future.
As far as the three vendors that we're looking at, is there any motion?
I had some discussions. We got 3 bids for full service from 3 different companies. Our budget is $24,350 for 2025. First company was $30,000, 3 days a week. Second company offered both a 3-day and a 5-day service. The 3-day was $19,800, and the 5-day was $23,040. The last company, they were 3 days at 20, looks like 25,200. They tried to differentiate themselves by, they said that they install a computer system that monitors the chlorine and injects chlorine automatically, which that might be a good thing, but I'm more inclined to go with somebody who offers a 5-day service especially at a much lower price. So One Stop offers 5-day service for $23 or $40, which is within the budget. My only question is, will they agree to servicing the pool on Saturday and Sunday and then be off 2 days during the week? Doesn't really matter to us, I don't think, which 2 days, so preferably be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But definitely want to get them here on the weekends.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the heaviest usage.
Yeah, that's it.
So is that 5 days, excuse me if I outline, is that 5 days for the whole year? Because like, we don't need them 5 days in the winter.
This is
So
5
they-
days, 5 days.
Yeah,
year-round.
yeah.
The 3 days, the way I want them to do it is, they, summer, they claim summer is Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Okay.
That's only 3 months.
Yeah.
We have a 6-month pool season here.
Yeah, we do.
So we're better off with 5 days year-round, in my opinion.
But with them servicing the pool on the weekends, will that have an effect with the hours of the pool operating?
That's a question we'd have to ask, I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless they had to shop the pool,
Yeah. That's
then
the only
they
thing.
might.
And the only time they have to shop the pool is if some cooks get into it or something of that nature, then it'd have to be shut down for at least 24 hours to get it recycled.
So that would happen regardless
Yeah.
if they had to shop.
But
Why don't
everywhere
we
we
just
have
do,
that.
why don't you guys decide to do like on a Saturday, and then do it again Monday?
There's
One day on the weekend, I don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference.
There's one company that has a system that continually monitors the pool, so it needs to adjust pH or whatever it does, so you don't have this problem that you're talking about, where it's one time to specifically be shot. So it's constantly being monitored, so it's adjusting itself properly based on its heavy usage or not. But that's only one company that does that.
Yeah,
And that one
but here's
company,
the,
is it in budget or out of budget?
Well, they said the system would belong to them.
Oh,
At the end of their term, whether we let them go or if the contract expired, they would remove the equipment. Unless we decided we wanted to pay for the equipment, at which time at the end of that, there would be a reduced price. Now, if we want to go out and have the equipment installed ourselves and pick a different company, that's an option as well. It sounds to me like it's $2,500 to get.
The biggest thing is to
I
get
don't know if that
someone in
includes
place.
labor.
Sorry.
We need to get someone in place. It's, Memorial Day weekend,
Yeah.
it's, the whole summer, June, July, and August. We need to pick somebody.
yeah.
Well, we are going to pick somebody, and certainly the company that we're terminating is bringing it back to life, so it shouldn't be closed. It's like no more than another day, right?
Yeah, they should, matter of fact, they should have called me today, sometime about 4, and I haven't heard back from them since, so it's still closed. And, hopefully tomorrow, I should hear back from the contractor and let me know. Otherwise, I will follow up in the morning to see what's the status on that. I want to see, give me the okay, then we'll get back.
How long of a contract are we signing up for with these pool companies?
Normally for a year.
A year,
Yeah.
1 year.
Could be terminated with
And they
cause.
can
and is somebody gonna look at the contract so they can't do this to us?
We've
Do
already got
what
the
to us?
proposal.
I mean, like what's happening now?
Yes.
Well, it's not,
Because it seems
it
like a
wasn't
lot
a
of-
contract, I mean, we just hired a maintenance person, and basically, the maintenance person who told us that nobody had shown up, but the point that he told us nobody had shown up for 3 days, and that's what happened. I mean, he isn't just down here, he's in different places, and they have been coming at different times. But today was the result of them not being here 3 days. When we got in touch with the company, they said, well, their technician was sick, but they didn't tell us, well, don't make any accommodation to accommodate us, except us signing the pool. But we're terminating, and to answer your question, all the contracts generally have a clause that you can terminate, before the.
Yeah, but I understand that, but it's just like with the landscapers damaging the monuments. And I was told that they were supposed to be taking care of that.
Well, the landscape company is something else, we're,
But what I'm saying is overall in all the contracts.
okay. Well, I was not familiar with that contract, or what it said.
I'm not saying you guys are,
Okay.
being a new board.
So, but we are certainly looking at contracts that we go into so that we are better able to monitor what's going on and take appropriate action.
What I can tell you is 2 of the bids were basically one-page proposals. And one of the bids was pretty comprehensive. It had 10 to 12 pages.
Which one was that?
That was One Stop.
Do we have, with our property management company, do we have a list of preferred vendors? In this case, food vendors that they can give us a list of? How did you vet that list? Is my question.
The property manager recommended One Stop because she's dealt with them before. I don't know if she's dealt with any of the other ones or not. That's all I've heard from her.
Well, actually, what happened was back in February when, Pam, who had been here for a number of years, was the person that was taking care of the pool. And so back in February, solicitation went out, and the company that we now have, that we're now terminating, was the company that was selected. So, there were a number of companies, I don't know, Carl, if you remember how many individuals applied at that time. But that particular company was selected, had great recommendations, and fortunately, the service did not match up to the recommendations.
That one said a one-page quote, it's not really gonna cut it. They're obviously not covering everything, or they've left it open-ended in one page.
Of those vendors, have anybody done any reviews on them online or anything? Better Business Bureau or anything with their vendor points? Or is it just some random companies that were selected?
The first time or this time?
This time now.
This time, well, it's been reviewed by the individuals up here on the board. There were some recommendations by the prior board, so we've taken their recommendations along with the recommendations.
Right, other than just our people outside visit, you know, like when there's reviews that everybody out there online and see, hey, ABC company, if other homeowners associations are using them, you would think that, you know, somebody out there that didn't, if there's any bad reviews or something, that's what I'm just trying to say. Has anybody gone outside of our community?
Well, the management company has suggested a particular company that they've had experience with, and so that was taken into account. I don't know that what you're saying has been done. I personally did not do that, and I don't know.
Well, that may be a suggestion to do
Right.
that. Review some, to see what other.
But I know
What
that
type
we're
of
looking,
things they
I know
receive.
that we are looking at contracts in a different manner than we were looking.
So I'd like to make the motion to choose One Stop for 5-day service with chemicals included.
We have a motion on the floor to choose One Stop, second it.
Yeah, second.
A motion by Tom, for One Stop, and seconded by Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry.
So why are you choosing them? What's the basis of choosing them?
You said, why are we choosing One Stop?
Well, first of all, we get the 5-day service from them without paying extra. And the second is that we get good recommendation and they have the lowest price.
And that contract is for a year as well.
And
Yes.
that's for a year as well.
With a 30-day clause that if we are not satisfied with the service, we can notify them,
Yeah.
to terminate the contract. with them.
They can quit in 30 days and we can fire them in 30
Okay,
days.
so in those 30 days, what is the process that we're gonna take to ensure that they're, you know, working to our standards?
To make sure exactly, because we did the same thing with this current company. I come down here personally and monitor that pool, and I will call them out on it if I see debris in it.
And then my
So-
follow-up question would be, how do we know when they're getting in the gate? They have to badge in as well, right?
Sure. Mhm.
Okay, so is somebody following up with that to make sure like, hey, they're supposed to be here when Monday through Friday, for example, we're seeing that they're badging in Monday through Friday. They're not badging in on Wednesday, what's going on?
Exactly. So, and plus we have Leland Management employee here until 12:30. So I will call him and ask him, did the pool guy show up? Is he here? And go and take a look and let me know the condition.
And are we
So-
given a time frame for when they're going to show up? Like, hey, they'll be here between the hours of 8 and 12.
To be honest, we rather them to be here like in the 10 o'clock hours, 8 to 10.
Right, understandable, but is that part of the contract that they're gonna be here at a certain time?
Not really, but that's something we have to negotiate. Yeah.
Okay.
Cause I kind of like long.
Can I just suggest that you continue to offer? But I suggest that you continue to ask for volunteers from the community to maybe come in, maybe someone can come out this morning, because I can't imagine the 3 or 4 of you or the 5 of you being able to do all the other things that the board is being expected to do, and then follow up, as you're suggesting, to come and follow up on a day-to-day basis as to whether the pool company shows up to do the work.
That's a good suggestion.
And when I was in the front, and I was asking people if they wanted to volunteer for various positions, there was 0 people that put their name down.
So I'll tell you, sir, I'll put my name down to follow up on the pool. I'm retired. I'll come down here every day to see somebody
Great.
around here.
Great.
I don't have a problem with that.
That's great.
The only reason why I didn't sign it was I was waiting to see what I wanted to volunteer for.
So when they come in with their truck, they'll have a sticker, just like a resident. They'll have to scan at the gate there to get in, and we'll have a record of that.
But someone monitors.
But actually see the work that's happening there, yes, it would be good if we have somebody just look in the pool, tell us the condition of it. And because I've done it for weeks, you know,
I
I'm
don't
tired
mind
of it.
helping.
I'm just
I don't have a problem
tired of
with
it,
that.
that's why we come to this conclusion.
Steve?
I feel like,
Hold on,
I mean,
hold on.
I'd be open to, if we have like a website or something, that we could just put a check mark or something, like we used it and it looks good or something, you know, I mean, it could be something very simple where one person wouldn't have to do everything, but it looks good, you know, now I'm with my daughter and my kids.
Yeah.
But I don't think they necessarily.
Well, I recognize that you sent us a letter before, and, you know, we appreciate that. And basically, we have to depend on the eyes and ears of the community.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a big community, it's a lot of things to check on. And so certainly, Kim, we appreciate you volunteering to do that. And we could certainly set up some mechanism where you can communicate that to us regularly. Steve, you had anything? No? I'm sorry.
Are you pointing? Okay.
Yeah, you had your hand up, but I saw you put it down.
Yeah, volunteers are great, love them, can't get enough of them. However, the onus is on the community itself to, especially for the pool. If we're adults and we're at the pool and we see the pool need maintenance or care, all we need is an email that you guys can set up, or a phone number we can call. Having volunteers do that, what if that volunteer is on vacation? Everybody, every adult in this community should be the ones looking at that pool to see if it's up to par. And if it's not, then, you know, they can call or send an email, and I think that would satisfy a lot of, just like the landscaping around. Or the gates, when the arm is down, I put the arm up several times myself in the back.
We
I'm
appreciate
not
it.
volunteering to be the guy to put the arm. I just know it needs to be put up, so I just do
Well, we noticed that people have been knocking it down since we put the sign up above.
it.
Okay, but we appreciate it, and basically, we want to improve our community, we all got to do our part. I mean, and certainly, I know that we have received letters, we've only been on board since Thursday, I know some letters have come in. We can only react to what we're being told, we can't be every place at all times. So, again, we're looking for volunteers, and there's some good ideas, and we're looking to, work to make the place a better place. Yeah, and
Mostly, since I've been here, and brought up mostly security stuff, and one of the key things that's my concern, because we pay for it collectively, is are these cameras working? Because everything you made, the pool can cover, the back gate can cover, the front gate can cover. If we have these cameras that's actually working, you will see who's out here stacking chairs. You will see who's coming in here, not doing their job for the pools and stuff like that. So people having to come over here, like Jerry brought up, wouldn't be a thing if our system's actually working with the pay.
But no one's monitoring it.
So verify our finance database and that our security system's working every day.
There's nobody monitoring the cameras early after the fact.
It's been monitored. Don't believe it's not monitored.
No, I'm saying, are they
Even if
working
it's not
all the
monitored, if it's
But-
I'm
recorded.
saying, are the cameras working?
Yeah, they all work.
In the pool, are the cameras
all
working
work.
up front, are the cameras working by the back gate?
Every one
So
of them.
then, it cuts down on anyone having to be the volunteer who might be out of town or anything like that, because you go to a single source without any conflict amongst us within the community to say, this is the time, like you said, hey, you swipe at this time, we can verify this is going on, your children was here, and that's all original, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the security guard up front, they do have a monitor with all the cameras pointing, and if they are instructed that if they see something totally going out of control, they need to call, now they're gonna be calling Warren. Then that's where we take it from there. We do, once they make that call, we can go back and reverse the camera and look and see what happened in that time frame and take a picture live. So we have those ability to do those things. Yeah.
How far back is it being recorded?
We can go back a few weeks. Back.
Steve?
We can't police every contractor, and the board has done their due diligence to select these contractors. And even though, as the landscape committee, we took over 4 weeks to select and recommend to the board a company to do the landscaping, but they could be crap too. We don't know that until they do it. So if you're hiring, or if you're allowing the citizens of the community to monitor them, the only thing they're gonna know is if there's dirt in the pool or something. They're not gonna know that the chemical balance is wrong. They're gonna know that, you know, there's people, children playing, you know, dangerous or something, but that's not the contractor's problem.
No.
So what is that volunteer gonna do? What are they gonna look for?
Well, if the pools turn green, that's.
Well, I understand that, but that's not gonna happen overnight.
Right.
But I'm
So-
saying if we put a volunteer there, what are they gonna look for? They gotta know that.
Yeah.
But like I say, you guys have done your due diligence. You even looked at this contractor, the last board did, I'm sure. Carl, you were on that, and Warren. So you've already ruled them out once, but now you're going back to them. So we never know how they're gonna perform until they get on the site, right? So
the
we
thing
maybe
about-
find another one in a month, but we don't know that. But we can't police every contractor.
The thing about this contract is, even though it's a year's time, it's only a 30-day contract. Either
Well,
party,
any contract's
either
only
party
30
can
days in
cancel the
Florida.
contract with 30 days written
You
notice.
can, in contract in Florida, 30-day notice.
Right. So, if this company doesn't perform,
Same with anyone, but I'm just saying, if we put a volunteer out here, she's gotta know what she's looking for, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, well,
If the pool's green, anybody's gonna,
right, but I don't expect a volunteer to measure the chemicals.
no, I understand, but I'm just saying, what are they gonna monitor?
If they hear, if they don't hear the pool pump running, or they hear a loud
But
noise.
I'm saying, we need to educate them on that, that's all I'm saying.
She knows.
Well,
Well, there you go.
originally,
I used to have a pool, so I know.
well, before we got to that point,
There you
she was
go.
saying that she was willing to show up, to verify that the pool person showed up, that's all she was saying.
And that's what we have
I'm
them
not
check
gonna
in
clean the
for,
pool,
right?
I'm not gonna clean the filter.
But that's what they clock in
Well,
for, they
it's
have a
not-
badge and they scan from the gate, we don't need to, like I said, police them. And say, they scanned the gate, they checked in here with their card, I'm calling you, yeah, they checked in.
Yeah, but even if they check in, are they actually doing the pool? We don't
Is she
know.
gonna check the chemical balance?
No, it's really looking for stuff that's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm just saying, we need to educate them.
I agree, but we can't solely rely on just badging, because I can badge and then sit down
I
at my
think the
desk and
biggest
not
thing
touch it.
was that making sure that something doesn't happen like this time where they went 3 days without showing up and we didn't notice until the pool was green.
I give you
But
a
we're not
classic.
checking every day to see whether the pool company show up either.
I give you a classic example. I came down when I knew they were here cleaning. The, two guys, one take a seat in the chair right here, and on his phone.
I'm good,
The
I
other
just
one
thought we
in the
need to
pool.
educate them on what they're looking for. I don't
Trying
want
to clean
to
it.
beat this to death.
Not doing a great job, so I asked the guy that's sitting, so what's your position?
He
What
was
do
a
you do?"
trainee.
You know?
He's the
So
supervisor.
he said, well, he's training the other guy. I said, in our
I heard that
pool,
story.
you
What's
know?
that story?
You gotta run it somewhere.
So I said, you train somewhere else, but you gotta get in there helping him. You know, so I picked up the phone same time and I called his supervisor. You know, so, you know,
I think if we just take one more question and we move on.
I gotta agree with Steve, but one of the things that in the past, that we had with Pam, was trust in that, in her work, in her husband's work. And that's what we gotta develop, that kind of trust in a company that can do the job.
We don't trust him already.
That's true, and the only way you build trust is to have a relationship. So we're starting a new
You
relationship
gotta
with this
start a
company.
new relationship and you gotta start building trust.
I just thought they should be educated on what they're looking for, that's all. That was my point. I didn't mean to beat it.
we did trust this company.
I didn't know she would.
When they started, we did trust this company when they started.
I understand that.
We gave them some time to prove themselves, but it didn't turn out.
One last question, lady in the back, and then we move on with it. We have a vote.
I'm not sure if you still have this option on the Dwelling Live when you're on a desktop, but you can take the barcode and you check message, you can check mark, and you'll get a text message every time that barcode comes through the gate. So therefore, you'll know when they come through, because it can go to your phone. That way, if they don't come in at all, you don't get a text at all that day or 5 days a week. That's what I do in my house. So if you use a desktop, it says get it on the barcode, it used to say,
You
this
can have it
little,
on your phone, on the phones too, on the phone, you can have it set up that when
you
you
get a text or email every time they come to the gate. So you honestly can be a board member to get that notification. So whatever, you can do it for any company that has a barcode coming through the gate, or any resident actually.
Well, I appreciate the suggestion, like I said, we're looking at the mechanisms that were in place and not in place, and some good suggestions, we'll see what we can do to address it. And, you know, we have a motion on the floor, secondly, to, one stop, I believe we already did vote, it was all unanimous, okay? So we will move forward with the, full contract for one stop. Next item is the process to move forward on our daily operations. We have, an attorney opinion from the Massey, firm, and a board resolution as far as how we should, do our actions. Has everybody had an opportunity to read it?
Yeah, I did.
Is there any issues with the resolution that has been submitted?
I don't see anything because pretty much is what we, the past board was going. The only thing that Warren, I would, I don't know if I think the, what I put some kind of example of the price range. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I would recommend that, we increase from 5,000 to 10,000 for your authority to make decisions, because from our record and, see the different bids that came in, most of them was, above the 5,000, which then we have to call a meeting to, for approval, special meeting and things like that. So it was governed by us, for me as a president at that time, to only approve up to 5,000. And, that can delay things. And if we have an emergency, it's an issue to try to run up all the board members and their time to get together to make a decision. So with, what I would recommend is for them to up that to a $10,000 limit. So Warren, if there's an issue like a well pump goes out, it's gonna cost $7,000 or whatever, he can call a shop to say, you don't have to run up the board to make that decision. But if something goes over, like say $10,000, I wouldn't advise him to make a decision on his own, because somebody could come back and point finger at him to say, hey, you made that decision. So I would cap it at $10,000.
And the reason too for this is because in the past, how most boards operated was that you could not vote by emails. So you would communicate, there are a number of issues that happen on a daily basis within any community. So you would communicate and collaborate via email, and you would need 5 directors. In case here we have 5 directors to be in the affirmative, and you could take the action. If you did not have 5, you would have to address the matter at the board. Basically, they changed a lot of laws dealing with homeowners associations and condos, and what the attorney is saying now, the system is that basically we can still collaborate among ourselves and make the decision and go forward. And that's what this resolution is about.
We just can't vote. We can only concur.
And if there's any expenditure, it will be addressed at the next meeting, so it would have to be monitored as far as any expenses stuff.
So I'll make a motion.
I have some questions.
Sorry.
So one of the issues that he brought up is you can't vote via email. There's 2 statutes that control the HOA, the 720, which is HOA statute, and the nonprofit statute. Both the nonprofit statute and our bylaws say that if you get written agreement between all board members, then you can go with that agreement. And that is binding just as if it was a vote. The problem is you can't make that agreement via email. Now, you could email out the agreement, print it out, sign it, scan it back, send it to the president, and if all 5 agree, that would count as a vote. But you just can't go into an email and say, I vote for this. But the Florida statute doesn't allow that to happen. Questions I have regarding the resolution, and the law firm DeMassey said this is how they handle this matter with other HOAs. I looked over their opinion, but I didn't see anywhere where they justified the board resolution by any kind of case law or anything like that. How do we know the resolution will stand up to be contested in court? We know, and the law firm said, that if somebody takes you to court based on an email vote, the judge is likely to say you can't do that. But there's nothing that I know of that causes this resolution to be compliant with the law unless the firm says, hey, this is why we do it, this is our legal justification, and here's the case law for it. I haven't seen it yet.
It doesn't exist.
Secondly, let's say that we incurred a problem and the pool pump went out and it was $8,000. Our budget for this year for pool maintenance, pool equipment repairs is $6,000. If the bill was more than the budget, would the president then have to call a meeting because it's over the budget? Even though he's got a $10,000 leeway, it's $2,000 over the budget. If the bill was $8,000 and our budget's only $6,000 for the night.
Yes.
But I feel like that then affects the residents, because now you're saying that you're gonna have to shut down the pool when he could just make a decision and not affect all of us and what we're paying for in the first place.
Well, there's different things, like the pool pump going out, I would consider that an emergency, right? And the emergency's handled in a different way. But
I mean, I'm just using the example you gave.
routine things, are handled by this. Before I want to vote on this, I just want to find out either before or after, what's the case law that backs up having a board resolution? Because what you're saying is right now we're going to vote to give the president authority to go act for all of us on certain things, but those certain things haven't been defined in the resolution. We've just given a dollar limit, it hasn't really defined what particular items fall under the board resolution.
Well, as you know, we basically, the two issues that we addressed today, the pool and the insurance, were issues that carried over from the last board, based on a recommendation that I had made to the last board to give this board an opportunity to see the companies being considered for the pool. As it was explained to us, there was a process in place. The process that was in place was where, which other HOAs had operated under, that you would communicate via email, but you would not vote. You would get basically consensus, and you would move things forward if you needed 5 of the directors to basically agree. That was a process that was in place. That was a process that was in place by other HOAs. Basically, with those two contracts that came to us, we were told that they were time sensitive. However, questions raised by a board member prevented the number of 5 being obtained to in fact move forward. And we subsequently obtained a legal opinion from the firm that we were retaining, the DeMassey firm, that basically said with changes in the law, this is how they are instructing other HOAs to operate. This opinion came in today. The matters that we've had with the pool, so forth, were matters that were brought to our attention since the election, but because there were challenges within the existing board, we did not move forward. We cannot afford to shut down everything that occurs within the HOA because an individual wants to see case law. This has been vetted by the attorney and sent to us today with the way to move forward to prevent us from not being able to address issues that we won't be able.
So let me say something. Even if we had this resolution in place, it would not have covered a $122,000 insurance bill or a $20,000 pool contract that we all have to vote on which vendor we want to go with. Whoever owns this resolution would not have been able to make those two decisions regardless if the resolution is in place or not, because the amounts were too high.
So I've worked in contracts 35 years. Electronic signature works. Now I get it, you can't do it by email, but you can fax the contract over, everybody can read it, you can sign it, your computer allows you to scan it back, or if you have Adobe, you can just sign it and go and send it back. I've dealt with the Navy, the Air Force, all of them, and I've signed plenty of contracts electronically and sent them back. So it's part of leadership. So I would ask that we voted all of you in for your leadership. And I would hope that you guys are leading and not waiting for the whole community to decide on, what's gonna be, because we're coming up on Memorial Day, and I get it, there should be a dollar value, but like, I was given a dollar value of, 250 million, but it was a different business. But they gotta have enough value to be able to make decisions for the community. And hey, if it doesn't work out, then next vote, we'll know we're not voting for that person. But I don't wanna stop progress in the middle of everything, waiting for everybody to vote and whole shutdown Memorial Day weekend, or the gates broke and nobody can get in and we're all backed up on the boulevard. I voted for you guys for your leadership. And I want somebody to lead and move forward and, yes, and be responsible for our money. I get it, within the budget, but
But as an HOA, we are bound by laws and also our covenant restrictions.
yeah.
And our
So,
obligation to the members to make sure that everything is kept running and all that stuff, I get that. But we can't do that and say, let's violate this law because we need to move ahead.
no, and I'm
There-
not saying
there's
that.
no-
I'm
And the
saying
one
it's-
thing, what I said was, I read the law and I said, look, I can't vote by email to agree to this stuff, because the law says I can't do that.
We're not questioning voting at the time with the system that was in place. The system that was in place was a system that had been in place by other HOAs. And your interpretation of the law was inconsistent with what the lawyers had said to us. Basically,
That's
you
not
have to-
true.
Okay,
You
All right,
want me to
well-
read- you want me to read it for the audience?
you can even share it with the audience. The issue that we have before us is a way forward within the law that was sent to us from our law firm. It was sent today with the resolutions that are used at other HOAs. I recognize that there's a difference of opinion, and we have shared those opinions that you have expressed here this evening, and other opinions that you've expressed with the legal team. And they have presented this document. This is the document that we're discussing now, but soon we will entertain a motion as far as whether we're gonna move on this document or not.
There's two
We cannot shut down the day-to-day operations to have a meeting every time we need to decide on something.
If you allow me to try to walk the dogs, how did the HOA come up with the $5,000 limit? Is that part of the bylaws?
Yes, it's somewhere in there.
So with that being part of the bylaws, how do we change the bylaws? What is the requirements to the change of the bylaws?
You need 70% of,
So if you need 70% of homeowners, not residents, but homeowners to change the bylaws, we can't just start, and even though it's necessary to have this pool and gates fixed, if the dollar amount goes over 5,000, this is a very slippery slope to just start making changes to our bylaws without having the necessary, requirements being met.
First of all, you need 30% of the homeowner that's in the HOA. That's what they wrote to get there. Sure, as far as going over the budget, anytime you guys go over the budget,
Just too many people talk.
okay, first of all, the bylaws says you need 70% of the homeowner to change, to change, that's what the HOA. Second, anytime you guys come up with a budget, because I heard last week that the schools are just coming around as a community and doing big goods and stuff like that. But again, we pay HOA, we pay that too. Unless we have a community that we want to do something extra, we shouldn't be coming out of pocket and care something that's supposed to be covered by HOA. Hear me out. So if you say it's $6,000 and it's $2,000 over, you guys need to be sending out to the community that you went over the budget, and you need to get permission from the community to go over that budget. We shouldn't be coming out of the pocket doing bake sales on Friday Girl Scouts.
Is what he's saying, because that's how I interpret it, is that what the board interprets? That a change to the bylaws needs to go before the community, homeowners, not the residents,
Okay.
not the board.
We have our DCCR, okay? That's the governing document. And we have to follow that strictly. And the only way you can make change in those documents, we have to have at least 75% of the homeowners vote to make that change. So far, we cannot get that number. We tried, and it's impossible. So we have to stick with what's there.
When you say what's there, what do you mean?
Whatever in the current document, the DCCR, we gotta stick with whatever in there. And I believe that number is where we talk about. It might be in what we call the, I have to go back and look into what we call the rules and regulation that was established. Because if we didn't do that, then any decision we have to make around here, we would have to call a committee and nothing will get done.
Right, and that's, I wanna make sure that whatever we decide to do,
Yeah.
whether it's the board or whether it's the homeowners, that we're doing it legally.
Yeah, definitely. We
That's
can,
my
we can,
concern.
yeah.
What's being discussed now is the legal opinion that came from the attorney with the resolution that they suggested that we put in place.
And what we're saying, what Warren is saying here is that if we don't do this now, then what's going to happen is that any decision regarding the upkeep of their community will get hold. And you're going to see how fast 12 months fly off and nothing get done. So we can't afford that. So all we're saying, we have to put an instrument in place so that we can operate. Because a lot of folks don't understand that our board, current board and previous board, we were like what we call a operating board. We don't just come up and just say yay, nay, and vote and move on. We hire a management company on the board. After that, and the organization chart is the management firm that we hire. Between the management firm and the board, there's committees, okay? And the board basically, in a nutshell, if you want to simplify it, the board is basically have a invisible, you want to say committee, like a ad hoc committee that we can discuss through other media to say, hey, there's an issue here, what do we think or whatever, and discuss it. But we cannot vote. We only can discuss. And when we discuss it, we can determine how many board members will go for it. And if a board member say, yeah, I think it's a good idea, they can concur, but they can't vote. And what Tom is saying about the email, using the email as an instrument to vote, we know that. You can't do that, that's illegal. Okay?
And we were not doing that.
And we're not doing that.
We were not doing
And
that.
we never do that. So when we have a discussion between the board members, we just concur. At least we're going to rectify it at the next board meeting, which becomes legal. And then we know that, hey, we have it on file that say 4 members did concur. So at the next board meeting, when we rectify it, we're not going to have that problem because already we know. So we move forward and take care of the issue. Otherwise, we're stuck.
Essentially, our pool turned green because we could not put a pool company in place until this evening. And this was a matter that was brought to our attention immediately after the election. And had we followed the rules that were in place, it could have been done. We could have had a new contractor in place. Because of the questions asked by a board member, we addressed all the concerns that were raised by the board members. The lawyers have showed the way to go, and that's what we have before us right now. We cannot shut down the day-to-day operations of the community by calling meetings every time we need to do something. We would have to post the meetings 48 hours in advance. So we would need to have meetings posted 48 hours in advance. Day-to-day operations. We cannot continue to operate that way. That's why our pool is green right now.
Pool is
So
great.
the Massey lawyer said that it's okay that you guys can
It's-
move together and come up with a consensus and then move forward and then vote on it next week.
And they provided the document that is here for the resolution.
All right.
And last year, when they changed the rules, we questioned it ourselves to make sure we're not breaking the rules. And the previous lawyer, which was Christina, he said it's good, just the same way. So, and then we tried a different lawyer, they said it's good, we can operate, so here we go. Because what happened when they make these rules, we have to figure a way how to operate legally. So we have to find a way how to go around these laws so we can operate in a legal form. And that's what the lawyer came back and said.
So basically, is there a motion on the floor to move forward?
Tom still has a.
There needs to be 4 motions. If you read the resolution, there needs to be a motion For ordinary expenditures, there needs to be a motion for the amount of emergency expenditures, and there needs to be an amount not to exceed incurred ordinary expenses more than $1 amount. Those are all individual items that need to be filled in on this resolution that we all agree to before we can actually make a motion to agree to the
You wanna go
resolution.
through each of them?
So, first one is be it resolved that the Board of Directors hereby grants the Association President authority to approve association ordinary expenditures up to certain dollar amount on any one association-related item without specific approval granted by the Board of Directors. I would make a motion that it remains at $5,000. The second one is the emergency expenditures. I would make a motion that would be increased to $10,000.
Okay.
And the last one, be it resolved, the president shall not use this authority to incur ordinary expenses of more than blank dollar amount in any given calendar month. I'm open to what you're suggesting.
From previous experience, I say 2,500. And what we did recently to get things rolling better, we did come up with a 25, it's really 5,000, but we split it between the president and the treasurer.
Excuse me,
So,
excuse me in the back, could you? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, what happened here, we find ourselves into a little situation with getting stuff. And we had to use our own money to buy things like petty cash and then wait for 30 days before we get our money back. That weren't cool. So we came back and I presented to the board and said, hey, I think the treasurer and the president need to have a credit card that they can use as petty cash to buy things, run out and get something. You know, paper is not in the toilet, you can order it, get it here or something like that. And they approve it. So,
That's reasonable.
yeah.
I mean, I expected,
You know?
like, I
And,
can't wait a month for you guys
exactly.
to figure
You
out,
know?
and we can't.
Yeah, we sit there waiting.
As long as it's within the budget.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so what Tom is saying here, and you can put it in, it's a $5,000 improvement, approved. So, the president will have a credit card, you know, like myself, now he will have one, and the new treasurer will have one as well. So each is 25 limit, you know, for petty cash to run out and grab something if it needs to. So they don't have to use their own funds, you know, and then wait 30 days to get their money back, you know. So what you say here, I would
So
suggest.
for ordinary, I make a motion for $5,000.
Correct, that's fine. Yeah, I second it.
Quick question. Not the amount you guys have, is this if you go over the budget, because you're pulling from someplace else, like you gave the example of, the budget 6,000 for the pool, we're back on the pool. Hypothetically, the budget for 6,000 in the pool, you have 2,000 over. You have to pull that 2,000 from somewhere, because you're over the budget.
Sure.
So before you can pull that 2,000, you need to get permission from the community, so hear me out. So we can say, okay, they pulled 2,000 from here, and now it's coming from law here. So then we don't, because we agreed to it as a community, they don't sit up here and blame you guys for pulling that 2,000. Because we said, we want the pool taken care of, that 2,000 come from silver, because we don't want to do fake goods, or we can't do fake goods. That's all I'm saying, is that there's accountability of where this money is pulled from, so that we know the books are always balanced.
Okay.
And nobody should have any problem with that, if we're being transparent.
Exactly. And what we normally do, if we see one item was, like for example, if we have $10,000 for food and we find ourselves with $13,000, whatever, there's other buckets that's there, that's budgeted, and we probably didn't use it because of some reason, nothing break there. We can borrow from that and take care of that, and later on figure it out. And that's what we do as well.
But I
So
don't
it's
think we
not an
should
issue.
wait, and, I
No.
think if the pool pump, since we're using that thing, if the pool pump's broke and we only have 6,000, it's gonna cost 8, and we've done our due diligence to call around to make sure it's 8, then we're paying.
Get it done.
You're paying 8, and you're gonna have to get it fixed, because we're all paying in this community to have the pool.
That's right.
There's nothing in the documents or the law that requires the board to get the approval of the homeowners for a particular item on the budget if it goes over the budget.
That's
No,
right. I don't-
I'm saying from the standpoint of being transparent on your invoice, saying this is where we
Oh, yeah.
pull the money from, so that we know where the money, so when we say, hey, we wanna do something for the community, and we think we got 10,000 over here, and it's like 4,000 short, 1,000 short, we know why it's short, there's no, hey, there's something going on. So that's what I'm saying is, because we haven't had that before, so that's why we're having this conversation now. So we need to see that we're so balanced, and no matter where you're pulling it from, there's no issue because we know the money's there.
Just to point out, the budget numbers aren't estimate.
Right.
You don't know what the reality is going to be. So you try to make the estimate as close to what you think it should be. But a lot of times, that's not the case.
It's the best judgment.
And that's why you have an other category to cover those
Right.
things. Because it is, every year you make an estimate of what you're collecting and what you think it's gonna be. But insurance goes up, pool cleaning goes up, pumps go
Water
up.
bills go up.
Yeah, everything goes up.
So we have a motion and a second for 5,000 ordinary expenses.
I second it.
A motion on the floor and seconded for 5,000 in that category.
5,000.
5,000 for ordinary.
Ordinary, yes, right, got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Make a motion, emergency expenditures be $10,000.
I second it.
We have a motion for emergency expenditures to be 10,000, seconded by Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Motion
make it-
carries.
Yeah, make a motion that the ordinary expenses not exceed $2,500 in a given calendar month.
That's what you're gonna card.
So
For
this
any given month,
this
yes.
$5,000 is for a year, right?
No, per
Annual
month.
budget.
That's per month.
Well, then explain this statement in here because it's a not to exceed. It's not clear whether that 5,000 is a monthly or a yearly item. Even the emergency, because 5,000 a
Calendar
month.
month,
Huh?
calendar month. Yeah.
Emergency is excluded from this amount, but
Yeah, it's excluded, yeah, that's correct. It's excluded
Right.
from that,
Can
yeah.
you please read it out so we can hear what you guys are looking at?
Can you read it out?
first one is, be it resolved, the Board of Directors hereby grants the association's president the authority to approve association ordinary expenditures up to $5,000 on any one association-related item without specific approval granted by the board. Second one is the same language but emergency. And then there's a be it resolved, the president shall not use this authority to incur ordinary expenses of more than blank dollars in a given calendar month. So we need to set a limit on that. It's $5,000 per item, but how much is the president allowed to spend during a monthly period?
Do we have an estimate of how much historically they spent per month?
Yes. It was 5,000 we had.
No, the actual receipts. Historically, how much have we?
In the past.
In the past,
Yes.
we were limited to 5,000.
And you were staying under the 5,000?
No, sometimes things goes above, and that's why we're the board, we have to call emergency or special meeting to get that resolved. So from history, we can look now and make adjustment, because why calling these special meeting, and it's hard to, it's very difficult to try to round up back the board members during the month, because they have vacation, doctor appointment, this or, whatever. So, from what we can see from experience, the spending, and with the inflation and all that kind of stuff going on, we see that we move from 5 to about, 6, 7, 8,000 in that range. So that's the reason why we say we could put a gap in the 10,000 there, because of the increase of the true inflation and all that kind of stuff. The $5,000 that they have, that's like 2013 or something like that. It's different today. And I'm just using those numbers based on what we see happening today.
So you want it to be 5,000 in a month?
Yeah, 5,000.
Basically, I think what goes down is, basically, I think what we're asking is, can you go back and?
I said 5,500. I said
No,
5,500.
we already said about this one.
This one here. So, in a month's time.
Yeah, in a month time.
What's
We
the
have,
month?
we have 5, because what we did, we split it between the treasurer and the president. You know, so that's what we did.
All right.
So it's really $5,000, yeah.
So basically, I think what Jim was asking, can you take the calendar years, 2024, January to January, and see what the average was for each month, I mean, the full expenditure for each month, and then come out for an average for that year? That's basically what he was asking.
I would say average about 7,500 somewhere there.
So then why are we keeping it at 5,000?
Well, because we do now have what we call emergency.
They have emergency fund.
Funds now, so we don't need to go, you know, that.
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, move on.
All in favor?
So make a motion that the monthly amount not exceed 5,000.
I second it.
Motion on the floor, the monthly amount to be 5,000, seconded by Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
I think I'll work with about the finances, just for everybody.
Motion carries.
So I mean, we're gonna get those books balanced out, so we know what's going on with the books, because, I mean, a lot of guesstimates. Are we gonna get where the treasury actually sits down with their account and balances the books?
They have a budget meeting once, what about October or something like that? Budget meeting?
They have a budget meeting
Yeah,
that you can
and
attend,
you're all
and they
welcome
put
to
out
come and
the
attend.
financial statement.
Finance committee will have a budget meeting.
Okay, cool.
And all of those things we reveal, you can take it, read it, you know, come back with a question. Board will be at the finance committee to answer any question.
Cool.
Yeah. Nothing is hidden. It's all open.
Okay, make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
I'll second it.
The motion on the floor to adopt the resolution that was prepared by the Master Law Firm with the figures that we've added, and seconded by Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Aye. The next issue on the agenda is the clubhouse reservation form. There was some question regarding that form. I don't know how many individuals in here have rented the clubhouse. The form was recently amended and updated back in November. And this weekend there was some issue with garbage being left from a prior event. And several of the board members were concerned about the way the application was written. So open it up for discussion as far as what changes we're going to suggest to be made.
From my standpoint, it's the recreational area, right? So if I were to rent the clubhouse, and you state you have different sections, right? A, B, and C, different options. You can use the pool, or you want to use the clubhouse. Clubhouse is option C. At the end of the agreement, it's stating that as a resident, you are liable or responsible to clean the clubhouse, the parking area, the trash cans. That trash can that's out there by the bathroom, that is considered recreational. You need to come and clean that. If there's a pool party, that's your responsibility to clean that, that's part of the party. The agreement should state what is party trash can and what is not. Because it's unfair to, as a resident that's renting it, if there's 50 people out there, they're dumping trash here, then I have to go and prove with pictures that this trash is here or not. The picture can be doctored, who knows what may happen, but it should be clear in the agreement what exactly residents are responsible for, because some may be confused. I've rented here, I don't know how many times, I did not know that trash can was something that I didn't clean up.
Well, it
Now,
says you
I
have to take all your trash with you. It says right in the form that you need to take all your
Yes,
trash.
all your trash in this trash can.
No, but you're not allowed, it says it, that you're not allowed to use it.
At the end of it, it says to clean up recreation.
Yeah. There is.
I would rent from this
We-
organization also, because you make us responsible for the whole pool. Now, I would be responsible if the gate was locked and I rented the whole thing and party, but I'm not responsible for everybody that's coming into the pool. I'm not cleaning the whole pool when everybody's been here. So, that needs to be fixed,
And-
because
and-
they're expecting a whole lot and putting a whole lot of liability on the person that rents this for the whole pool when the pool's open to everybody. And I can see the liability of the clubhouse, and you have to clean the clubhouse and the trash in the clubhouse, but the whole pool, no.
And that could also be the conflict, because again, if you have this, and then you're responsible for other people coming in here, and you know you have to clean up behind somebody else's children or something like that can cause conflict within the community itself. If you, this room makes sense, if you rented this room, like you said, the trash and stuff like that, but if I got 15 people here that I have no obligation to, and you're saying I have to clean like that, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
And I agree with that, because this is something we dealt with last year. And we did make some adjustment to the document, the rental agreement. And maybe that's what we saw, that one little area missing, and that could fix. Because what happened, when you rent here, this trash can right here is yours, plus 2 additional bags we leave here for take your trash out, okay? The trash can out there is for anybody else who use, and all the other thing. But what people fail to do is when they rent the clubhouse, they don't tell their guests that this area is where we contain, right here, put your trash here. They take it and put it in here, put it there, and all over the place. So what happened, we hold the responsibility of the person who rent the place. I said, if you don't inform your guests to contain the trash here, and they go spread it all over the place, now it becomes your responsibility.
That makes sense.
To go take it out.
Communicate to your guests.
Yeah, because the other trash cans are for the other resident who comes in and use, not for your party people go and litter all the other trash cans, then it becomes your responsibility. And that's what, that little missing part in the contract need to amend. And I agree. They need to just fix that little part, because it's fair. And how that started, somebody rented the clubhouse, and when the party came in, the bathroom was a mess. Somebody puked into it and leave it. You know, and I had was to go and sit there and rewind camera and sit there to figure out who did it. And because they were blaming the other party that came after, and it takes me time to sit there reviewing these things and to find out exactly who did that mess.
When I rented also a lot, and I come in here and I take a video of everything, I take a video of the bathroom,
Exactly.
you know.
And that's the correct way. That's what we put in the
And do
document.
it afterwards as
Yes.
well.
When you rent, you take picture of what you see. And when you leave, you take picture of what you left behind. Because that's the only way you're gonna clear yourself. Okay? So if somebody else come back in later on and rent the place and they say, hey, you know, we find this trash can with garbage, we can say, oh no, we have it on camera, this person took his trash out. You know, and that's why we fix it. So that's why the rule is there that if the party who rent here and they go out spreading their trash around and they didn't inform their guests not to do that, then that's their responsibility. And I think that's fair.
That's fair.
Couple
So
questions.
basically, the areas that we know that we want to make amendments to the form,
That's that last line.
Yeah, the last-
so we have specific language that we're gonna put in. Okay.
So the normal recreational trash, how's that handled normally?
The person who, the maintenance person will take that out.
Okay. Is there any garbage service here at the clubhouse?
The person that Leland has here, that's maintained, he's the
Fine.
maintenance person, he takes them out.
Right, but I'm talking about does the garbage truck come in
Oh,
here?
yes, they do. We have, but only for the recreation garbage, not your party garbage.
Well, I understand, but
Yeah, they come up with
is there a can just like the residents where they come in?
Yes,
It goes out.
we have two.
Okay.
And they put them out for the garbage truck to pick it up when the garbage.
Have we ever looked into maybe getting a small dumpster instead?
We don't have anywhere decent enough to contain one, and then we're gonna have, let me tell you, if you look at this camera at night, you will see all kind of stuff crawling around, okay? I see them in the garbage can, going in and out, taking stuff, bags, and run with it. So we don't want to have that mess nowhere around here. You know, no, because I heard about those kind of issues in the other neighbor
So
over
where do
there
we-
that have can.
Where do we keep the garbage cans?
The garbage cans for the recreational area is kept in the pool pump area. So it's under lock and key.
So somebody who takes them out?
Yes.
or-
And they've been good since we've been here, like 2011, they come here with trash issues.
You know?
It's always been a good system.
Yeah, so we didn't want to have a garbage container locked somewhere out there. It doesn't look good.
For years,
And the two containers they have, they put it out there, you know, religiously, and they don't, never have a problem with that.
I was just curious, I didn't know.
So what's it?
So we, the motion would be the language that we're gonna have, if we know the exact language as far as what we're gonna, put in and what we're gonna take out.
Right.
So what was the language that we're gonna remove, do you know that?
We're going to put a language in to say that if the person who rent the clubhouse, if they don't inform their guests not to litter the other trash outside with their party food and stuff like that, then they will be responsible to clean them up.
And if they don't, you
We
keep
hold
their
their-
deposit?
Exactly.
That's what it says in
Yeah,
there.
it's
Further
in there,
therefore,
somewhere in there.
forfeited
Yeah.
deposit. Okay.
Yeah. And we will have the camera to prove, because we did that before. To see people taking out their own trash. We have done that.
So is there a motion on the floor to change the current language to language that will basically say renters of this area are responsible for the trash to be here only and not in the exterior trash locations?
Yeah,
So-
if they're not, if the renter did not, inform their guests to use the trash can out there and they use it, then they're responsible to
Clean it up.
clean it up.
And of course, we're not talking about like one or two items, it's like if you use all the trash.
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
You fill it up and it's overflowing like it was last
It was
week.
overflowing
Exactly.
last week, correct, correct. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to amend the current language to the language, or basically say renters of the clubhouse must make sure their garbage remains in this area.
Yes.
If their attendees use the outside garbage, they're responsible for
Exactly.
cleaning it up.
Why don't you make another sign,
You know?
you know, all party garbage is gotta be in here, and you can take it back to your house.
Yeah, probably that's a good idea to put some kind of sign in it.
Put them like on the door, like when they rent, give that fellowship package. When they rent it, so they can't say they didn't know.
They didn't know.
So when you rent here, you have it, you put it up in the window, people walking out the door, stuff like that, and tell them, hey, you gotta put it on the door so you guys can see, so it's a reminder, when you ain't got to take it on people or kids.
So the motion was made by you, Carl, is it
Yeah,
seconded?
make the motion.
I'll second it. Seconded by Alex. Take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried unanimously. Last thing on the agenda before we have an open forum here at the residence, the credit card approval. The credit card approval was for the secretary, for the treasurer and the
President.
president, in the amount of $2,500.
500 split, 25, 25. That's what we have there. Okay. So, I make a motion for approving the credit card for the president and treasurer. 5,000 max, split 25, 25.
There's a motion on the floor for the credit cards to be issued to the president and treasurer, in amounts of $2,500.
Question.
Just seconded.
They asked for the vice president's signature also.
The reason I asked for vice president's signature is because, the absence, it needs two signatures for checks. And in the absence of,
Okay.
president,
The absence of
The
the
treasurer.
president.
of the president,
Yeah.
the vice president.
Vice president, yes.
That's why they need your signature.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the floor and seconded, who seconded it?
Aye. I'll take it, second
Alex seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. At this point, we want to open up the, to the resident present, to address any issue that was not on the agenda, and give an opportunity to say things that we may need to take back and address, but give you an opportunity. See,
First, I'd like to thank you all for taking this responsibility on, 'cause I know it's huge. Good luck, good luck. A couple things, is street parking still on for the holidays, or is that off, or? The previous board approved parking for 4 holidays, I believe.
I thought it had not been approved yet.
We did for
yes, we
our
did.
federal holidays, I thought it was
For
approved.
holidays, yes.
Last week, we knew that pulled back because of they went back to the bylaws and we couldn't do it.
No, we did not change the bylaws.
No, not that you changed a lot, that you had went back to the HOA, said that you couldn't park on the street, that's why I said we had heard.
Yeah.
That you couldn't park because it was written into the HOA, so that's what we were talking about.
Carl was the previous president. Was
Right.
parking approved for the streets for the
Yes, we
holidays?
did. Yes, we
So it
did.
is in effect for the
Yes,
holidays?
it is for the
So
holidays.
is towing in effect?
No, when they,
Not for the holidays, I'm saying anytime.
yes.
Just to be clear, our restrictions say no overnight parking, period.
Right.
The board cannot make a motion or anything to change that.
Correct.
What the board can do is decide whether they're gonna enforce the towing during certain times of the year.
That's what I'm asking. Is it enforced now?
It is.
So we cannot park on the street between 2 and 5 a.m.
Right.
They will tow you, or they can tow you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I got a car, I
Well,
got a car
you
across
see
the
what
street
happened?
for 6
It's in the
months.
DCCR, we can't change it.
No,
Yeah, but I have a car that's
Apparently you can. You
across the
changed
street
the
from me for 6
no
months.
parking on the
That's
street.
been on the road every night
I-
for
I-
6 months. It has not been towed.
Trust me, I have one on my area too.
Yeah, but you said they were towed.
Yeah, but the towing company, we don't just actually call them. They roam, it's a roaming tow.
Well, it's not rolling over.
But you can change it. You can change parking on the street or not parking on the street, correct? You did that for the
With
holidays.
a 75% vote.
Yeah, we can't change what the bylaws.
For the holidays.
No.
No, we only can make.
You just said there's parking for the holidays, right?
No, you said that we would suspend towing during that time, that's what.
They're
you
not,
said.
they cannot change the rule.
I understand.
All they can do is say, towing company, do not tow
I understand
3
that.
days before and 3 days after this holiday.
But what I just asked, is there parking on the street for the holidays? And he confirmed that, they approved that.
I would have to go back and look at the minutes. I don't want to incriminate myself without go back and look at the minutes, but I believe we did. Because there's we could make an exception, but we cannot change the rule.
So is there an exception?
And there's an exception. I believe there's an exception. We
So
discussed
what are the
that.
holidays and what are,
It was the major
Federal
holiday.
Federal holiday.
Federal holiday, the major, including Hanukkah.
I thought you guys had only approved 4.
No, we did federal holidays, all major
So look it
holidays.
up, dwelling line, and just look it up, because it's on there.
Yeah, this
What-
is federal holidays and Hanukkah.
On dwelling line,
Yeah.
Where the confusion is coming in at is that the bylaws was passed because the board was trying to do us all favors because we're neighbors. So the board gives common sense. The HOA said something long before this community expanded. So as we moved in here, it was like common sense. It doesn't make sense for you to get told on the 4th of July, Christmas,
Exactly.
Thanksgiving because you got family.
Yeah.
So they made an exception. What he's keep trying to explain is they can't do away with that. Technically, by the HOA, you can be told by the roaming truck. What they're saying is they can call and say, hey, don't come onto the property if you come, please don't tow anybody because we gave permission. It's still up to the towing truck to actually tow. All they're saying is an extension, as a courtesy, please do not tow. By the bylaws, they can't, what he keeps saying is, there's nothing legally they can do until we get 75% to change and say, hey, it makes more sense for us to be able to park on the street. It makes more sense for our family to be able to park when they come to town. So that's where the confusion is coming in. They did us a favor, the board did us a favor.
But we're not changing the bylaws. It's not. It's still-
Covenants, it's not the
The
bylaws.
covenant, the covenant. The DCCR, that's where it's at, yeah.
We have a valid question right here.
I understand what you're saying about the gesture you did, but when you're saying you're asking them not to tow, is it just on that particular holiday, like on the 4th of July? Is it the day before, day after?
because, we can't change the.
I follow that.
You know,
But when you're saying you're making the exception,
yeah.
is the exception like a day before, a day after, or is it only on that particular day?
It's like 3 days
Three
before and after.
Okay,
I
that's
don't
what I'm
have that
saying.
information in front of me,
It's the day before
but
the day
we did, yeah.
So, Monday is a holiday, so Sunday.
I think it was.
That's what, that's no.
It was approved, but I don't remember if it was, day before, day,
I know,
you know,
I
I don't
don't
remember.
No, I don't
We
either.
know like 3 days, like you said, it'll be the
But
holiday.
it's supposed to be on dwelling lot.
It is, I've seen
So
it.
it's like, okay.
The lady in the back? Lady.
I have a question. Usually when communities tow and there's no parking between this hour, they usually have like some passes for exceptions, like if you're having a graduation, you have family over, a birthday, you can purchase and have things in your car so you're not towed. Cause not every driveway, you can fit your family and your guests if they come over, so it's kind of like now we're saying you can come visit, but you can't stay the night. So is there something in place for just like temporary, like I'm having a graduation party, but I need 3 parking spaces in the street? And I know some communities will charge $25 just to make some money for the community, and those passes are only good for like 24, 48 hours, and then you can be towed. And another thing is, my car is all-wheel drive and my son drives it. Is there any way you can tell the tow truck from my house, the pink raspberry car is all-wheel drive with no all-wheel drive engines on it?
Yeah.
Because I don't wanna have to replace my transmission for it being towed, and I'm pretty sure he's 21, it will be towed eventually.
We tried that, but it didn't work. So, again, it came back to the DCCR.
The
So,
temporary passes,
Yes, the
yeah,
bylaws.
it's bylaws.
They
you know, some driveways,
We
you
can't-
can't fit more
we
than
can't
3
change that.
cars in the driveway.
You did that, so you know the history of that.
You can probably,
All I wanna say
when
is
they
that.
wrote the HOA bylaws, they put it in like 25.
We used to have exception letters,
Yeah,
what she's talking about, but it can't be done
can't be
because
done,
of
yeah,
So they went straight.
changing the documents.
yeah. So that's why we cut it out, you know, because it's like breaking the bylaws. So we had was to cut that out. Because it happened to me, I had a friend came over to my house and they had a few drinks and I was like, hey, I don't want you in the street, stay over. But guess what, I already have 3 cars in my driveway.
That doesn't make sense.
So-
You can't do those exceptions. How are you making exceptions
And
for
when
holidays?
So what I would like to
So
see,
this point is valid. You're making exception for federal holidays,
Yeah.
but now you're not making an exception for a family having
But it's-
a gathering.
That's individual.
That's
That's
individual.
not the whole development wide.
Yeah, that's the reason why. It's an individual situation, we can't do that, they were breaking the DCCR, the company were breaking it. So whatever we do, it has to go for everybody. Yeah, we can't break it.
May I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Stop using the word exception. When you use the word exception, it denotes that you're changing something, or have an exception to the bylaw. That's not what you're doing. What we're doing is saying, tow truck drivers, don't come in here from this day to this day.
Okay.
That's not an exception. That is grace that you're giving to the homeowners.
Yes,
For the
It's
whole
not an
development.
exception. If you say it's an exception, you're violating the.
you're violating the.
Yeah,
You're violating the bylaw.
Okay.
Not only
It's just
personally,
terminology.
you're not, because exception.
Yeah, the
means a
terminology,
lot.
correct.
Because
You got
Once,
that.
once you violate it, because my thing is, once you violate it, you violate it. You can't
So
go back.
basically, we're looking out for each other when we do
Right.
that.
You just-
It's
you just
community
showing
wisdom and stuff saying, legally we get it, but right now, we're the ones that are the community, we're the ones we're family, so for this holiday, we're gonna allow all these people to be here. We get it, we just know what you guys are here. So it's also,
And to Crystal's point, because we are also in the graduation season,
yes.
there will be graduation parties. It is unfair to those graduates that they have to cut their functions short because of these parking issues that we have. So the same grace we extend during the federal holidays should be the same grace we extend for graduation
That's
parties.
sufficient.
All we have to do is note, maybe some type of note.
Birthday parties.
Park,
No,
where we can say, hey, this is a graduation, because that's a big deal. Graduation is a big, holiday is a big deal, about graduation.
And again,
That's individual.
It That's
Go back to individual.
Look at all of this.
Unless you say the month of June between this
You
period.
can park wherever you
where they-
want.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah,
that's the only way that it would cover everybody. And that way, if you don't have a kid that's graduating, I mean, it covers everybody.
What do you have when
Generally, it's not
everybody?
happening, you want to
Is there any other issue other than the parking issue?
Where's the rule that allows the board to demote someone without cause? That shouldn't be.
It's in the DC.
It's in the DCCI.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Section 8.4.
Yeah, it's in there.
You've read it a few times.
Yeah, we would have known if
Put
it
it
wasn't in
put it
there.
this way, put it this way. If these guys decide to kick me off the board or demote me somewhere, things like that, why would I embarrass the other person? We're board members, you know, so that's why that part is in the DCCR, to use that, so we don't have to disclose nothing. It's between the board. And we didn't write it, it's in the rule. And this way,
It's in the DC.
it's in the DCCR,
Okay,
period.
so that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
8.4.
Adjourn.
Are there any other questions, Joanne?
Yes, parking, since we're talking about parking, you asked about that, right? If there were any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I brought this up a while ago, and, I was told that you have a garage. A lot of people don't use the garage to their cars in. You know, that's my storage unit. You know how big my house is, I have 8 people. I have one of the biggest houses out here. All 5 of my kids are of driving age. They all have a car. My driveway, we can all fit in the driveway, but when Little Pat parks or someone else, they're blocking the sidewalk. We're not out on a public road, it's, this community. So why is it that they're allowed to put citations or toy stickers on my car, or how can we get that changed? Because we have big houses here, a lot of people have a lot of cars in their driveway.
You can park your cruiser in my driveway anytime.
Well, I can tell you what it
Thank
comes
you.
from.
Okay.
Because you gotta remember, we're the homeowners, we're the ones here, not everybody's here, but you also have renters. So because the renters were not taking care of the property, people who were renting out apartments, taking care of stuff like that, were doing things out there. So that's where my understanding where that came about is because again, the homeowners, you can do things to us, you know what I'm saying? And we can eventually put out here, obey it. You can't do that with the renters and stuff like that. So it was a way to teach the community and make it look properly and stuff like that, make it look clean.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from as far as us not just being able to park anytime, having an overflow of cars and stuff like that. And again, when we built in 2015, where there was nothing back there,
Mhm.
with like maybe 7 houses. So when they built this property, it was just in front, and the bylaws were for a small community, and then see what was going on. So again, we're working off old rules from this property first built. Until we get the homeowners to show up, and this is not on any of the boards, it's not something we're going to show up, until we get to 75%, a lot of stuff that we don't agree with is not going to be changed. So the thing that we do need to do, the simplest part is, we need to get to where we're doing this, and we need to get Zoom. And we're gonna get more people in, and then we can get close to that 70%, 75% of homeowners. But if we just do this, I'm telling you right now, in here since 2011, this is what's gonna keep showing up. I'm telling you your face.
Well, one of the things that we had talked about, and we haven't implemented it yet, like I said, we've just been talking ideas, is doing surveys and saying that there are things, we know that there are things in DCCR that need to change. Send out a survey saying we've identified these areas, parking, this, that, and the other. Would you vote and send it out to people?
Yeah.
Get them aware of it, because when you try it, if you don't get that number, you cannot change it.
Yeah,
Everybody has the same concern, but if,
I've seen a couple of houses too, you're angling your cars a certain way so you won't touch the sidewalk. And then I have a big old patrol car, it's a Tahoe. So it's like, what do I do, you know? I was told we can only park here during certain hours, so it's like, it's a hit or miss, because one day I might wake up and one of us have a toasted one car.
She can park
You
the
know,
patrol
I'm-
car in the street.
So it's like,
That's a
you know,
city
so.
the patrol car can be
Yeah,
parked.
so, I mean.
Yes.
One thing to point out is the developer copied the documents for Weston Bay from a prior development, which was 1995. He didn't change the documents when he started Weston Bay, he just copied 1995 documents. That's the reason why we have weird things in the documents, because it's 30 years ago. And that's the problem we have, trying to change it, to reality, what it is now. And you gotta get 75% of the residents to change.
I understand, I'm not asking.
In hindsight,
But mine's right.
before the turnover, we as residents should have went to the developer and said, hey, we want these changes made to the documents. Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
I agree with you, you're right on.
What's the percentage?
That's also the reason why you don't have to be a homeowner in this community to be on the board. You can live out in town, you don't have to be a resident in this community.
But all 5 people are living in.
I know that.
Okay, excuse me, Crystal?
I just wanted to.
I have a question about the management company. Are you guys gonna keep Leland or look for a different management company? Because my opinion is she's overworked and doesn't have enough time to do the things we need done in this community.
Well, at this point, we've been on board a week, and in addition to being on board a week. Let me say this. But I think there are different levels. What I'm aware of is that there are different levels of service. I think that we are at a level that needs to be a higher level. And I think we're getting more, although it seems like it's not adequate service than what we're paying for. So there are a lot of things that we have to look at, but again, a lot of things are driven by money. And, I hear what you're saying, but you don't jump out the frying pan into the fire,
Is there a reason why she's not here tonight?
Well, this meeting was called because we had to address the pool issue and the insurance issue. This was not a scheduled meeting. The scheduled meeting was supposed to be June the 9th. That was gonna be the next meeting. As you know, Leland manages other properties, and so they were already committed to other properties. So this meeting was basically formed to address those 2 issues, and that's where we had this meeting now.
I have one more comment to make. And I know many of you don't know this, but Leland contract, we only get billed for 5 hours a week.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So, you guys need to know that, because sometimes you might say, how come they're not doing much work and stuff? The board member choose to pick up the slack to carry on some of these functions, because if we didn't do it, we're doing it voluntary. And we choose to take up these extra duties so that we can save on our assessment.
And the other thing is, and I didn't know the exact figure, but I know that we were at one of the lowest rungs as far as what we're supposed to get, and I know that we're getting more than 5 hours.
Yes.
So while there's complaints saying you need to get rid of Leland, they're doing more than we're really paying for them to do.
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful what you ask for.
We get more
Exactly.
out of that.
You know, one of the-
Well, Kim had this question.
So I have 2 issues, so I'll start with the sidewalk. They came out and replaced my sidewalk. They didn't remove the 2, they just put the sidewalk back over the tree thing. So there's still a hump there, which makes no sense to me. If you're gonna tear out the sidewalk, then cut the stump off, or the tree, and then re-pour it. They broke my sprinkler system. I got sand all over the sidewalk. So, they didn't do a good job, and they should have put, if they were gonna do that, they should have taken 2 chunks of sidewalk out and cut it out, but for some reason, I don't know who we hire, but they just, even the house behind me, they just slabbed over the whole hump. So now, instead of it being flat, you go over the hump and down, which doesn't make sense to me. So it looks like it's just a big waste of money to me. Not that I can't fix the sprinkler, but I didn't break it. So I shouldn't have to be fixing stuff that I didn't break. And I asked
Unfortunately,
board-
as it relates to the sprinkler, I think that the contractor was signing.
I asked the
indicated
whole
that-
board not to touch the sidewalk until we determined who owned it. Because if I owned it, I would have hired a company and made sure it was done correctly. I would have made sure the right amount of slabs came in and that the stump was taken out so that it laid flat. Because now it looks like in a couple of years, I'll be back at doing the sidewalk again because you didn't remove the stuff. And the same with the people behind me, theirs goes up and above and it's gonna break it again and they'll be back at it again. And so,
Well, what I can say is now that we have a system in place to address the daily issues, that's one of the issues that the board will be looking at as far as who should be paying for this. That's one of the issues that I talked about in the letter that we're passing, the person who was doing the sidewalks before, who had the project, Bill Crawford, has basically indicated he's resigned from doing that. So we'll have to find somebody else to kind of oversee it and know what direction that we're going in as far as what has been stated in the past. One of the things that we talked about, I know that individuals received letters saying that work was going to be done, and work is done, so the next thing is to follow up with a letter saying the cost. I believe we were going to put and say to suspend sending out those letters until we determine as far as who actually owns the tree, the street tree, as far as being owned by the HOA and so forth. So we are trying to look at those records to see what decisions can be made. At this point, I don't have the answer, but I know that we're saying that at least the discussions have been, and they working on it. Those discussions have stopped.
and my follow-up is, the person that owns the home behind me is an LLC out of Texas. They have not taken care of that property in over 5 years that I have been writing Natalie about. They don't cut any of the tree limbs. The UPS guy took out a whole limb and the limb laid in the street for days until somebody dragged it over to the side and they finally picked it up. If you go by there now, they hired a lawn service, but because nobody monitors that house, they only mowed half the yard and left it, the other half, and didn't mow it, and it's now way high. And I've asked about the trees being cut because they're so heavy, and with the hurricane season coming, it's gonna tear up my fence. I cut along the thing, but I keep paying to trim their trees in the back of my yard, because they don't maintain the trees. Now, I know it's up for sale. I don't know if it's pending or what, but I need somebody that's a property management to get on to these people, like, you gotta take care of this.
Do you know the address?
Yeah, it's 545 Halligan Court.
Okay, I'll send something tonight and see what's going on.
Well, I've bugged her for a whole year.
She got a few emails, cause that tree messed my car up, you know.
Did it?
Yeah, I didn't, you know, it's on the top of the car, or I would've been saying, hey, who's paying my repair bill? So my whole top of my car, cause I didn't realize it was so low until I was already under it.
Well,
And then,
UPS guy, literally, I heard a big bam. It wiped out the whole limb, and then the limb laid in the road for a couple of days, and then finally somebody dragged it to the side, but they got one on the side and one on the front of their house, and then the two in the back, never been trimmed.
Yeah, schedule.
Going back to her sidewalk situation, and this is on the board. When you guys are spending money, you're bringing contractors in here to come fix something, it's on the board, as you signed off on this contract, that they're gonna do the job. She shouldn't have messed up sidewalk. You should have been out there, not you guys, you're the new board. I'm just saying, going forward, the board should be out there, wherever it is, verifying that that contractor is doing the job right. That they trim the tree, they're laying it down correctly and stuff like that, so the homeowner doesn't have to bring this up here. That should be something that has foresight, that when you're bringing these contractors in here, and I'm looking at it from a military standpoint, we do after action reviews, making sure that things are doing right or wrong and stuff like that. We're verifying that, you know, this contractor is legit and that they know what they're doing and stuff like that. And then we're putting eyes on site to make sure that the job is done. You can catch that midway and be like, hey, you know, what's going on here? This looks like it's gonna be a level, and explain to you, hey, this is what we gotta do. Or, yeah, this is messed up, and you catch it before the homeowner was talking about, maybe she has to pay expensive now. This is kind of, again, this is not on you guys. I'm just saying.
Well, going forward, like I said, you know, I look at it, you've been in the military, I look at it as like a battleship. A battleship can turn, but it can't turn on a dime. A patrol boat can. There are certain systems and processes in place that we've inherited, that we could try to make better. And certainly some of your suggestions and so forth, we'll add to it, but we can't stop everything. And you know, like your complaint that you said about Leland, like Carl said, they're supposed to be paid for 5 hours. I know that you put in 1 or 5 hours. So, you know, we're gonna make incremental changes. We're gonna make sure that contracts are properly supervised. We're gonna look at the contracts, you know. We're gonna try and be on top of things like the pool situation, be more reactive. But like I said, it's not gonna happen tomorrow. But I can assure you that you will see changes going forward. We're all committed to changes and we're committed to transparency. So you know what we're doing. We're not doing anything that, you know.
One thing would be really great to have these committees and get more volunteers. We really need more volunteers and have the committees structured where the committees will help the board.
Well, that's what we're hoping to get more volunteers to. Larry, I see you back there yelling up and down.
Yeah, I was yelling at all my letters were capitalized. First, to the board, hey, listen, I know someone already, thank you guys for taking on this endeavor. It is a thankless job. Trust me, I believe, I know what you're going for. But I have a wall, I live in Eagles Landing. I was one of the ones who were like 6 homes back there when I first moved in. But there's a wall in Eagles Landing that the folks in Eagles Landing pay an additional amount of money every month for this wall. Every month.
Yeah.
I rarely, when I say rarely, it's supposed to be the last Monday of every month, that wall's supposed to be maintained. The greenery on top of it and then the second wall on top of that. That's 12 times a year. I may see someone out there once, maybe twice a year, maintain this, but I'm paying for that. That's problematic. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I've asked this question years ago, what is the definition of maintenance of this wall and who's responsible? So the board, the previous board, came up with the homeowners are responsible for cleaning the wall. To make sure all the weeds are out of the wall and then all the mold or whatever is on the wall. I think I do a pretty good job of maintaining my wall. My neighbors, not so much. So I don't know if the board does a roving patrol back there to see what walls look like brick and what walls look like a black painted wall or not. But the onus is not on Larry to go to his neighbor and say, hey, why don't you clean your wall? And read your wall, because I pay additional money for that wall. That's the first thing. You can discuss that at your leisure. But the other thing is in the back of my house, there's a drainage from that wall that floods out my backyard. And the previous board's been working on trying to fix it, but they can't find out where the water's coming from. But it's coming from a Koi Pond, from the street that's 18 or 30 feet above my property.
Right.
And it's coming down into my yard. They're supposed to be fixing it, but I know you're a new board. I do not want this to fall by the wayside. Larry sues people. That's what I do. This floods out my yard and my neighbor's yard. And so I had to put in a fix myself to try to plug this. And it's a drain that's about yay big, that it comes out of this wall underground and it comes up into my backyard. And there was a rubber tourniquet that they put around this thing, and the tourniquet leaked. Now the tourniquet is broken. I went out there one day with my landscaper, and guess what I found coming out of this big drain pipe, this PVC pipe? A little baby alligator.
Oh, wow.
You got your own pet.
I got my own zoo back there, from bears to bobcats to alligators. I just need the board to make sure they don't drop this, because I've been dealing with this for a year now.
Okay.
For a whole year.
Larry.
Can I address that? I am on the landscape committee. The board they're not the holdup sometimes. Your neighbors will not let contractors in there to clean that wall sometimes. And right now,
Oh, the board told us that we could.
but I'm saying, even the top layer of the wall right now is being repaired. They're
The brick,
putting,
I can see that.
putting mortar in there. And we went up last week and the contractor said, because it's gotta be on the inside and outside, or that wall, that top wall, that cap is gonna fall off. But that contractor said, one homeowner would not let it, on the end, would not let him in, so he has to climb up there, scoot all the way down, because that homeowner won't let him in the wall.
And that's something that the board has got to address.
They don't have to let him in.
Is there not an easement?
No, sir.
Yes, you don't know that there's easement back there.
You're
There's
right.
an easement 5 feet, there's an easement 5 feet from that wall.
Yeah.
And
Larry,
it goes all the way down that wall.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not the board, it's not the landscape committee, infrastructure committee. Some of the homeowners are not allowing the contractors to do their job.
Well, no, my point is that because there's an easement,
I
the
know.
homeowners do not have.
And I think they addressed that.
They
don't have the access to the,
Hold up.
but they have to have the access to that.
Right.
Hold up. Let Carl.
You're Larry, right?
I am.
I
It was this
never,
morning.
okay. I never get to meet you, but I've been into your backyard, okay, a few times.
Hold up, please.
Please. And I have assessed your situation, and we do have a contractor coming out to put a drain line in your backyard to get that water out. Because, to be honest with you, I have engineers out. Myself as an engineer myself, I work with engineers, we work with the city to figure where that water is coming from. I even went out and hired a camera truck to snake 180 feet in that tube to see where the hell it goes.
I know.
Okay? So we came to a conclusion, we just can't find where the hell it goes to. So we went ahead and approved to have a drain line attached to the pipe and take it out to the street. So the contractor should be coming out, I think, June 4th.
Yes, that's what I'm.
You saw that, right? So it will be taken care of.
And which, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I've been working on that for almost
I
a
know
year.
that. I got you on camera.
Yeah, and I've done a lot to make sure, you know, I mean, I got an engineer come out, he's a PhD in civil engineering.
And he's scratching his head, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they're scratching their head,
Yes.
okay?
One clarification, Larry, just so you know, the Eagles Landing extra expenses are for wall insurance and for wall reserves, not maintenance or anything like that.
Well, yeah, which is fine.
So the money you're paying extra for is insurance and reserve money to replace it when it has to be replaced.
Right, but, and I don't wanna go back into that, Ken, because you know how we get along with it. We've paid so much money into this wall reserve that we should, our fee should go down because it has never been repaired. It's never been repaired,
Yeah.
ever.
Wow.
So the insurance that we pay every year, which is what, $24,000 or whatever it is?
The insurance is $97,07 in the budget, and the reserve amount is $11,600.
Ken, one of us, now, do they have a maintenance bucket for the
No,
wall?
there's no maintenance bucket for it, no.
Okay, because one thing I
Maintenance
found
is
out,
responsibility.
one thing I found out from our reserve study, that wall is supposed to be examined every year. And it wasn't, to be honest with you, it wasn't. Because when I went and examined that wall myself, I found some issue, and when I questioned it to see what the heck happened here, you know, they didn't have a budget in here. So I took it up on my head to repair that wall, because I see what was happening. And we removed all the trees that was, the small trees, simple as this, you see them there. They were forcing the head of the cap of the brick wall. And I didn't want that brick wall tumbling in somebody's backyard and hurt them. So I went ahead and I approved, you know, for repair to be done on that wall. And they're out there doing it today. So hopefully we'll move forward, because I would like the new board to set up some kind of maintenance system for that wall, because it do need to be kept up, not wait till it's reached to a point where we have to replace or
Yeah,
whatever.
in our homes, I've spoken with several of them, we are concerned with the integrity of that wall, because it's supposed to be self-sustaining, it kind of leans backwards.
Yeah.
Because there's no mortar keeping the wall, it's just the weight of the wall maintaining itself. And again, because the street is so high, and we live in Florida, and it's sandy, and the water's coming down, it's gotta go somewhere, it's gonna go to athlete's resistance. I don't know what drainage system is under it, because it ain't gonna get to the aquifer anytime soon. So we have to have some type of French drain or something put in place to channel that water away from, the community. It's not just my home, it's probably others.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the wall do have a drain system in it, and when I checked it, all the water in the wall drained out, and it went down to the lake.
Oh, I see.
So, you know, we don't have to worry about the integrity of the retainer wall itself. It's in good shape, and it's been working as how it's supposed to work. So that's fine. The problem is that the homeowners back there not cleaning the wall. Your wall is in good shape, because I saw it. It's clean, it looks good. You know, I saw your neighbor's wall, and it's like a crap, you know, back there. So, you know, I understand.
Good guy.
Yeah.
One other thing, Larry, the Eagle Planning Reserve wall has got 109,581 in reserves for repair, not repair, but replace that wall.
Yeah.
So,
But we need a bucket to repair.
so that's included, that's
Maintenance.
in what they pay, though, they pay for the reserves on that.
Yeah. But
So that's a cumulative amount of 109,581.
That's the current amount that's in there.
That's in reserves for the wall.
And that's fine, because based on the wall on what they budget, because that wall is probably the 30 years before it's probably need any kind of reach its life cycle. I have to look back in the reserve study.
Right, that's it.
You know, so that's fine where it's at. You know, but and when we did examine the wall, it's in good shape. The retainer wall, it's in good shape. Okay, we have engineers went out, myself and other engineers, we went out and we inspected that wall, and it's in good shape. So I don't think anyone back there need to worry about the integrity. You know, it's good. And the drain system works, and that's in the wall itself. When we saw the water in your backyard, we thought it was the drain system from the wall was draining into your backyard. You know, and that's why we tried to get a camera truck out there to find out.
I thought it was my irrigation system, I had it all torn up and reinstalled.
You
And I
know,
find out, it wasn't even that.
so,
we have to cover it. So you should feel better than you did when you started the question.
Well, I feel better when it's done.
yeah, we have the guys
I
scheduled
want to
for
promise you that it won't work.
on the 4th, so you should be out there on the 4th. If you're not there, let me know.
To answer Larry's question about finding where piping, you got some solutions. Get the blueprint from the city.
Nope.
They
Yeah,
have
we did that.
They don't have it.
People's landing.
They don't have it.
They can't find it. And the engineering drawing that we have, it's not even pinpointing to that drain line.
So why are we letting this go?
Huh?
Because this property was authorized by the city of Cole. So somebody's supposed to have blueprints. It's not that.
No, they have it, they have it. They have it, they have it.
But they probably don't have the as-built.
But,
They probably don't have the as-built.
yeah, what?
The as-built.
Yeah.
The way it was built, they probably don't have that on it.
And
Just like I build blueprints every day.
we do
I
have
don't
the